Are you overwhelmed caring for an aging loved one? Whether you're an adult child, spouse, partner, friend, or a professional caregiver, then this podcast is for you. Welcome to your Silver Lining. Each week, we bring you valuable content to help you provide the best care and support possible, along with tips on how to care for yourself. Your Silver Lining hosts will cover topics such as recognizing when a loved one needs help, advocating for them in the emergency room, managing medications, maintaining fluid and nutritional balance, handling acute and chronic diseases, and much more. And now for the disclaimer. Keep in mind the information you are about to hear should not be misconstrued as medical or legal advice. See the full disclaimer below. And now on to the show with your hosts, Stephanie and Paige.
Hello and welcome. My name is Stephanie Cameron, and I'm your nurse care manager. I'm also the owner and founder of Transitions Care Management, a concierge care management practice here in the Seattle, Washington area.
Hello, I'm Paige Selden. I'm the operations manager for Transitions Care Management, and together we're your hosts for your Silver Lining podcast.
We're so excited to bring you today's episode. We've got a very special guest speaker.
Yes, excited about that. Mm-hmm. And today we're going to be talking about care management, what it is, gerontology, what that is, and a little bit about dementia specialties. And I have a few questions for you, Stephanie, about care management.
Okay, let's do it.
What is it? Let's start there.
Sure. So care management is a client-centered approach to coordinating care, basically, and overseeing that care for our aging population, specifically for individuals who have chronic and acute disease processes and disabilities. A care manager assesses needs, they develop care plans, connect clients with resources, and then provide ongoing support to ensure their well-being. The goal is to enhance quality of life while reducing the stress for both the individual and the family members and the caregivers that are providing care.
Yeah, and that coordination of care I've seen it change people's lives.
Oh, absolutely.
It's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So who can call themselves a care manager?
Yeah, so really anybody can call themselves a care manager. The term itself is not regulated. However, a professional care manager will typically have certifications and credentials, such as being a certified case manager or a CMC, or an aging life care professional, as I am. These professionals adhere to ethical guidelines and continuing education requirements to maintain those credentials.
Interesting, yeah. And so what's an aging life care professional?
Yeah, an aging life care professional is a credential from an organization called the Aging Life Care Association. And an aging life care professional is a certified and credentialed expert in elder care. They specialize in holistic care management. They have backgrounds in nursing, social work, gerontology, and other related fields. And they provide comprehensive assessments, planning, and ongoing care coordination. Aging Life Care Association ensures that they meet professional and ethical standards.
Oh, yeah. We'll have a link.
We will.
Below for that.
Yeah.
And so what's the difference between a care manager and an aging life care professional?
Yeah.
I mean, besides the credentials.
Yeah. So the biggest difference is that the aging life care professionals are a member of ALCA, right? So an aging life care professional is certified by the Aging Life Care Association. And so they have to meet stringent credentialing requirements. And so while all aging life care professionals are care managers, not all care managers are aging life care professionals. So with that said, we're super excited for the rest of this episode. And so momentarily, we're going to be introducing you to our special guest speaker, and we hope you enjoy the rest of the episode.
Today, we have a very special guest, Ailie Glover. She is a gerontologist, a certified care manager, and a certified dementia practitioner. Ailie is a key part of our team at Transitions Care Management. We're excited to discuss the ins and outs of care management, gerontology, and dementia care.
Yeah, very exciting. We're so happy to have you, Ailie. All right, let's dive right in.
Yeah. My first question for you is, what is a gerontologist?
Sometimes people tend to confuse geriatrics and gerontology. Geriatrics is the medical specialty that is the clinical practice of working with older adults. But gerontologists is kind of the broader multidisciplinary study of aging and its impacts in our society. Gerontologists also, though, work in understanding diseases that are conditions that are common in older adulthood, like the dementias or osteoporosis or things like that. So gerontologists do have, dabble in geriatrics a little bit, actually a lot, but they are separate fields. Gerontologists, they're just basically experts in life's later chapters, and I think they're going to become a really valuable resource as our population gets older, and there's just a need for understanding of this population. But there's also, I think, the important to note in gerontology, there's just so many different facets of study of older adulthood. We had some people studying fear of falling. We had somebody who was researching grandparents raising grandchildren, people who are researching housing, people who are researching centenarians or long marriages. So there's just such a vast just array of ways you could specialize it within the field of gerontology. It's not just nursing and taking care of somebody's activities of daily living. It's so much more than that. So I just think it's a really interesting field of study for sure.
Yeah. Oh, it really is. And thank you.
I had no idea.
Yeah, and thank you for explaining the difference between gerontology and a geriatrician. That's so important to know. And now I have to ask, in talking about the different fields of study in gerontology, do you have a favorite? I mean, what's kind of your jam?
Well, that was my background. Well, I was really interested in dementia care. And so how were communities, assisted living communities, or any kind of retirement community, helping the older adults who had memory issues? And what is the proper ways to provide dementia care? I was also really interested in long-term care administration. So what drove people to work in communities? What strategies did they use to maintain staff and take care of residents. So those were kind of my two fields of interest, but it was really neat to be a part of my classmates who were all studying just really different, interesting things. But yet at the same time, we were all focused on the older adulthood and what that means.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. And so, talking about your schooling, what did you go through to be a gerontologist? What did you study?
Yeah, so it's part of the school where I studied, Georgia State University. They had a master's in gerontology program, so you just have to have an undergrad degree. But it basically is part of it's basically like almost like the social work program. So there's a lot of kind of overlapping with social work in there. But yeah, you're taking a range of classes that range, the psychology of aging, sociology of aging, communication in aging, and, work, about work and retirement. And so it's just, there's such a range of classes that you go through just to learn about this unique chapter in a person's life. I think so often we focus on early childhood and we focus on those early years of development, but the later years in life are actually really fascinating and fulfilling and worthy of study.
Wow, what
Definitely.
a great way of explaining that. I love that.
I love that. Yeah. And you're so well suited for this role. It's wonderful.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so can you give us an example of how your gerontology experience has helped you with clients?
Oh gosh, I think just knowing, first of all, that it is a unique stage of life. We can't just be like, oh, that's grandma, she's getting older, it's just the way it is. There is a lot that goes into why people are, why they do the things they do, make the decisions they make in older adulthood. And so I think just understanding just disease processes, and then also just being able to help guide families with what to expect. And when it comes, in the later life, I think that's just been really helpful. I think it just kind of having the gerontology degree kind of makes a holistic approach to how I provide care management services, just having an overarching understanding of older adults and what their unique care needs, and because they're specific.
Yeah, and you touched on something I want to go into a little bit more too, in what might be expected, in that there's really not a lot that's a normal part of aging, that we attribute to, oh, grandma's 84. Of course she's falling because she's 84.
Right.
But I really like, and I can speak to experience and working with you in that you're really an expert at helping families to define and differentiate between what's a normal part of aging and what is something that's modifiable, that's addressable, that is maybe not normal. And you're really, really good at helping people understand that.
Oh, well, that's good. And I think too, it's, families get, it's really hard when you see somebody you love struggling with either memory issues or chronic disease. And so just, being there to help just guide through that process when you don't know the questions to ask and what to expect, I think it's just, it's important.
Yeah. So even though there's a lot that's not a normal part of aging, there are a lot of really good science-based, evidence-based practices to help your loved ones through this process.
Yeah.
And that's where gerontologist comes in.
That's right. And bring in all those different kind of aspects of life to help somebody or support somebody in their later years. It's such a... It's not just like a one thing too. It's like, you think about all the services that somebody needs in their life, housing, food, and especially to help an older adult make sure that they have everything they need to stay safe if they don't have family nearby, or they just don't have they're just not able to, if they're sick or cognitively can't do it. So I think there's...
Let's discuss dementia a little bit. If we're talking about cognitive decline.
Yeah.
So first of all, what is a dementia specialist?
Yeah, this is I think it's a neat certification that you can get, and it's through the National Council of Certified Dementia Practitioners, and it basically equips caregivers with the tools to provide a person-centered approach to care for somebody with dementia. And so that basically means that it's the belief that difficult behaviors that you might experience in dementia are really a way for the individual to express an unmet need. So and especially if somebody's no longer to communicate effectively with words. So behaviors like agitation, aggression, wandering, repetitive actions, they all kind of typically stem from an unmet need. And so being a certified dementia practitioner, it's training you to really dig deep into why behaviors are happening and to get really inquisitive about why this person might be doing this behavior. And that might mean like there might be long-standing habits that this person did for many years of their life that are, coming out now. So I think it's just a matter of really like understanding a person, what they need, their history, to fully understand how to provide care for them, especially when they cannot communicate for themselves of what they need. So long story short, for a certified dementia practitioner, I think is just really trained to ask questions about why behaviors are happening, why are they doing certain things, and to just get to the bottom of it and help change unwanted behaviors and whatnot.
You're like Sherlock Holmes.
It is. It's like, I think that's like the really fun part about it. It's like getting curious, like what is it? Why is mom trying to leave the house every day at 3:00? She's not supposed to leave. What's going on? Well, maybe she used to pick up her kids at 3:00 every single day, and she still thinks she needs to, even though her kids are grown. So it's kind of linking, these past histories and getting curious about, where they came from. And I think that really helps explain a lot of behavior sometimes.
Yeah. That is such a great point that could apply to so many different areas when we're caring for our aging loved ones, that get curious.
Yeah,
in the midst of a crisis, it's easy to make assumptions and it's easy to put things into a single box.
Yeah.
And the more curious you can be, the more of a detective hat you can have on, the more you can see what the bigger picture is and maybe learn other things that are contributing to something that you had no idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like we talked about in a previous episode, Paige's mother-in-law was losing weight. And at first they were like, oh, that's a good thing. Then what they learned was that she couldn't reach her pots and couldn't bend over to get her pots and pans anymore. Yeah. So by being curious and being open and observing, more of that picture came together.
Yeah, and not assuming, it's old age. I mean, that's a really easy bucket to put everything into.
It's true. And I think, just having also just somebody kind of come in who, it's so easy to just not look at the big picture sometimes when you're like deep in with somebody with dementia, but to have somebody come in and be like, okay, let's take this apart and see, what's going on here. I think it's helpful. And I think a lot of times too, the way you communicate effectively with somebody with dementia is super counterintuitive. And so families don't know kind of the art of communicating with somebody with dementia. It's different than what you would think. So I think there's a learning curve for families that hopefully a dementia practitioner can help kind of bridge that and help them be effective in communicating with their family members.
I think I see a whole other episode.
I know,
just
you
on
have to
that
come
topic.
back and talk about this. Valuable.
I can see many episodes in the future about this to be able to provide some of those tools to our listeners would be great. In the meantime, perhaps we can put a couple of links down below on some resources that we can provide for families.
So what would you say is the most common misconception about dementia?
I think like what we were just talking about, that it's a normal part of aging. Dementia it's like a symptom of a disease process, like Alzheimer's or something else, but so it's not normal. So I think just helping families understand that there's ways we can kind of dig a little deeper and see what might be going on. Is it like a polypharmacy issue going on? Maybe they're not eating appropriately. I mean, there's a multitude of reasons that can cause cognitive impairment. So just not assuming that it's just normal. But also, I think that it's to also assume that the person, that their quality of life, it's just immediately going to be just this terrible downturn and decline. While dementias, Alzheimer's, whatnot, are progressive diseases, it doesn't necessarily have to be at this horrific stage of life. It can be, I think a lot of families find that it can be a fulfilling stage of life, even though it's hard. And then I think also just to really... I really get sad when people seem to think that when somebody has dementia, that they're gone. That person is just, they're not there anymore. And that's just truly fundamentally not true. And I really want families to know that the person, their essence, their feelings, their connections to their loved ones, those things remain deeply present, even though the person is not there and they can't communicate as they used to. And I think just making sure families just are able to find that, I think is super important. So
That's beautiful.
That is. I'm sitting here thinking, God, that is just such a profoundly beautiful statement and piece of guidance. If you get nothing else from this episode, hear that.
Key takeaway.
Yeah, they're still there, and I really believe that. And I think it's just a matter of kind of taking yourself out of the situation, just meeting that person where they are in their stage of their disease or dementia, and just meeting them where they are. And I think that's really hard to do sometimes. You want to say like, Mom, that's not right, or you're not doing that right, or sometimes you just gotta just be with them.
Well, I know we think of dementia as being kind of memory, like affecting the memory. What else does it affect other than memory?
Oh my gosh, I mean, you think it affects decision making, it affects mood, and I think that communication. So all of these things, it's not just like forgetting where you put your keys. It can show up in terms of getting like really, really aggravated at a situation that typically would not cause aggravation, or just changes in mood, and so seeing kind of just, sometimes it's hindsight for families, like, yeah, that was weird how they reacted. Necessarily just memory, or maybe they're spending money in a way that's like totally different than they used to. So just decision making and mood, and also communication. Just there might be changes in the way they communicate, or like word finding. So yeah, it's not necessarily just memory. And so that too, it's important to recognize all of these factors, because that's what helps us create effective care for them if we take into account all those different factors.
Yeah. So on that topic of care, what role does a dementia specialist play in supporting families?
I think that what I love to do is just help connect families with resources. And so to help them better understand where their loved one is at in their disease process, and then what kind of communication skills might be necessary to employ at a certain point in time. What caregiving tricks and stuff can we employ to help them receive the care that they need. And so I think just being also just a sounding board for frustrated family members. Sometimes families just want to vent about the hardships of care. And I think just being there to listen and empathize and just knowing what dementia looks like for families, I think just knowing and being there for them is a big part of it for me, at least.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I would think that it would be hard not knowing what lies ahead.
Yeah.
So,
And we don't have crystal balls. I mean, we can't say this is what's going to happen,
Yeah.
but based on your education and experience and science, we can generalize, and we can say based on other things that are going on with your loved one, here's what you might expect, but acknowledging that everybody's journey is different, but at least to give them some insight, foresight, to help kind of ease their minds and be alongside them for that journey.
And you just hit on something I think is so important too, is like how, and you both know this just with our clients, how every single client and person is so different. And their care needs are, there's some like overlap of what every older adult goes through, but it's so interesting to just kind of delve in and treat individuals with with their whole history. That person-centered care, I think, is just so critical and important and fun, knowing that there's no two people are alike, and it's just getting
yeah. And so what advice would you give to families that are just starting to navigate dementia?
I would say definitely get educated on the dementia and what to expect. Like you said, Stephanie, it's hard, there's no crystal ball, but at the same time, understanding what resources are available, what the disease process looks like, it can really help understand just the situation just through just educating yourself. I think having open communication about what's going on can be really helpful. A lot of people feel, I think, some shame when they have a new diagnosis. They're embarrassed. They don't want to go out as much because they're scared they'll forget a friend's name or things like that. But I think if you're open about what you're going through, it can just open up a lot of conversations, and people are much more empathetic than I think others realize. And so I really think that openly communicating about what's going on is important. I think establishing routines for the person who is affected with dementia is really important. Simplifying and making sure that there's a solid routine can be super important. And just consistent messaging also between families and family members to the person with dementia. Too many conflicting messages can just be confusing, and so I think just making sure everybody's all on the same page can be really important. And then seeking support. Resources like care managers or support groups, I think, are hugely important and helpful. What's that?
Your senior center. It's my
That's
favorite
right.
thing.
Oh, that's right. No, and
She's a
exactly.
huge
Senior
fan of
centers.
senior
Oh my gosh,
centers.
they're so great. And the people don't realize the resources that are there, like these adult day programs where they can send a loved one for just a couple hours for some socialization and a break. And so I think that resources are huge. And I think also too many people, and I don't know how many people really do this, but people do this, but plan ahead. I think people they need to be able to have the conversations to plan ahead talk about, and those are hard conversations. What does the future look like? And so to make sure that you are having a plan for when there is that inevitable decline where you can't communicate your preferences. And then I think lastly, it's just practicing patience. With those who are embarking on a dementia journey with somebody, you'll find that it can get really frustrating and communication can get difficult. And so in those moments, we just want to really approach it with empathy and patience and just dig deep to take that big deep breath and join their reality and, just be there for them when it's hard.
I love that you said join their reality. That's
Join their
also
reality.
a key point.
So critical. You're going to get nowhere fighting it.
Yeah, back in the day, we used to reorient.
Yes, yeah.
Remember? Oh my gosh. Remember, Mom? We've gone over this before. Remember? No, Mom, you're here, and that can be just detrimental.
Oh my gosh, so much.
Let's actually talk about what that might look like when one partner's passed away and the other one has dementia. And we've seen this in our practice.
Oh my gosh.
Where a mom will say, where's George? And it's like, Mom, he died, remember? And that just starts a brand new grieving process all over again.
All over.
Yeah, so we're not doing that anymore. And this is something we'll discuss more in future episodes too, and how we approach those communication processes. So I have a
And
feeling you're going to
families,
be back a bunch, Ailie.
Yeah.
yeah, well, and it's hard. It's a hard topic because families do struggle with lying to their loved one, and it's hard to do. But at the same time, sometimes that's the most empathetic and ethical way to approach. I think something is not by meeting them where they are and not, like you said, inducing further just upset reasons to be upset. It's not worth it.
Yeah, we call them therapeutic fiblets.
Therapeutic
And we can
fiblets.
do things like when mom says, where's George? You can say, I don't know, let me check.
Yeah.
He's still at work.
Or he's not here, but let me see. Things like that where you're not, because some families have a hard time out lying, right?
Yes.
You can say,
Yeah.
I'm not sure, because we don't know. We can
Right.
hypothesize. We can say, I'm not sure. Let me look into that.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's really helping families though know that that's okay. It's okay to do that. And if anything, it's helping. Unless it's done in a mean way, of course. But
Right, of course.
we're talking about an instance where it's the therapeutic way. So yeah, I think that's again a long answer to your question.
Well, and I think
is great.
you sort of almost answered the question I was going to ask next, but you can, kind of further carry on.
Sure.
How does your gerontology and dementia expertise help you as a care manager?
I think that just really provides like a holistic approach to the way we do care management. I think it just is such a person-centered care principle that you learn in grad school and part of dementia care training is just so important. And I think that really guides at least how I view my clients and the families of really. It's not about what's best for me and like forcing what I think is best on families. It's like we need to go with what's best for the individual and how they've historically done things in their life. And it's been so fun. It's so fun to learn about individuals and how they cope with stressors and differences and what things they love to do day to day and what brings them joy and how do we help just maintain all of that.
Yeah, and if I could add to that too, as being the owner of Transitions, and we've worked together for 6 years now, which is just crazy to me.
Right? Crazy.
Is your approach, the combination of your specialties in education with care management is such a natural marriage of skills and experience. Truly, truly appreciate that holistic approach and really having that ability to take a step back and look at the much bigger picture, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, that detective work, that looking at so many different things and not just being like, oh my gosh, this crisis is happening. Here's what we have to do about that one point. It's like, well, why is that happening? And you really have this amazing innate ability to really look at that and help the rest of the team understand that in dealing with their clients too. And we really appreciate that.
Well, and our approach too, I think, is just so great for really meeting people where they are and just helping them as they need it right now. And that I think it's really fulfilling. And not just, I think also we're in a field too where we just meet so many different unique personalities, and that's just so fun to just learn about their histories, and it's endlessly entertaining.
It is. Yeah. Did you, and I'm going to ask another question here just in thinking about it, because when I was growing up, my grandmother Charlotte was from Cuba. And I remember I was just a little kid, sitting crisscross applesauce on the floor in front of her. And she had her blue floral print dress and she wore rouge, like the spots of rouge. And she was a portly woman, and she was my grandma, right? Like the picture of a grandma in a storybook. And the first time she told me about when she was young, sneaking down the trellis to go out and meet a sailor that was in port, I was like,
Grandma.
and I know, right? But then it's like it opened up this just flood of stories that I was just mesmerized by to learn about her and her life. And so I think that translating into what we do and our love of learning about people, and just hearing their stories and get to know them.
I'm like annoyingly curious. I think my friends and family would say.
Totally into low-level gossip. I love that.
Did you have a moment like where you were like, this is this is my jam. This is really cool stuff.
Yes. No, and it was like, it's one of those like light bulb moments. I loved my grandparents growing up, and my very first job was working in an assisted living facility. I thought I was going to be doing like calling bingo, and they were like, no, we actually need you to do like, I was doing like caregiving work. And so it was without question the hardest job I've ever had in my life to this day. It made me profoundly respect caregivers.
Yeah.
But also I left that job I loved working with older adults. And but stupidly, and this was just, again, like a long time ago, but I thought that the only way I would ever work with older adults was if I was calling bingo or, like being a caregiver. And I was like, well, that's not, I'm not want to do either one of those. But in my mind, that's all. I didn't know that there was this vast possibilities of ways you can work with older adults and so I was looking at grad programs, and I came across the Master's in Gerontology program, and I remember it was like I almost fell out of my chair, like, this is exactly what I want to do. Like, there is a chance to work with older adults and study it all and not have to just be calling bingo. Yeah. So that it was that moment of like, oh my gosh, this is so neat. Like, we can study this population that I love so much and get to work there day to day. How cool. So, yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Yeah. And it actually brings up another point, and one that we're going to go into, and the number of gerontologists, geriatricians that are coming into the industry is dwindling. Yeah. And we really want to use this podcast as a platform to not only help caregivers and families through caring for their aging loved ones, but to create some excitement for people to want to learn more, want to do what we do. I mean, it's fun. I can honestly say, since I've been doing this and had this company for 9 years, I haven't woken up a single day thinking, ugh, I don't want to go to work. I've been tired if I've been in the ER with somebody until 2:00 in the morning, but I've never really thought this is not what I want to do.
Fun work. I mean, because it's never a dull moment. And that's the thing, I guess, too, with dementia care. What's the old saying? Like, if you don't laugh, you'll cry. I feel like we've had a lot of moments where it's funny. If you find the humor in it, it can bring us just so much joy. And it's really fulfilling working with older adults and just being around that sage wisdom, and it's really, really interesting. And so, yeah, I would love to see, all those people who love being around their grandmas and grandpas or any older adults, to just know that there's a place in this field that's really, like we see every day. It's desperately needed good people in the field. It's hard to find.
Just gave me an idea. We should actually do an episode on all the different ways you can work in the field of caring for aging people.
Oh my gosh, there's so many.
I love that.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I'm writing it down in here. That's great. And what advice would you give to somebody who's looking to hire a care manager?
Yeah, I think that I think that it's one of those things where you would, like, once you've hired them and you see how helpful it can be, you're like, why didn't I do this sooner? I think that advice would be, especially to burned out family members or overwhelmed family members, there's help for you. And there's people who are available to just help alleviate some of those tasks that, as we all know, with somebody who, has dementia or complex medical care, it can there's so much work that can go into doing that. You would start one project and it opens 10 more, as we like to say. I mean, and family members experience this. And so advice would be to know that a care manager can alleviate some of that burden. The sandwich generation is real. There's the having to care for aging parents and your own kids. It's impossible. So I would say just knowing that there's help, and especially or families are living far away, knowing that there's a local resource that can take good notes at a doctor's appointment with mom or dad, or to make sure follow-up is being done because you can't be there. Just taking advantage of the fact that there are people who can kind of step in and help when if you just can't. So, and then I think with advice for families using care management, I also think just know that we're here and we just really want to help and make it everybody, not only the family life, but also their client or the loved one, just make sure they're safe and happy.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. And if you're looking for a care manager in your area, you can go to aginglifecare.org.
That's right.
We're members of the Aging Life Care Association and big fans of the work that they do and the support that they provide, the outreach in the communities. And so, again, that's aginglifecare.org. We'll put a link in the description down below. Ailie, this has been amazing. Oh my gosh, so much fun.
I love it.
Yeah.
Any chance
we're
to
going to
talk
ask you
about
back.
care management, love it. So thank you guys for letting me join.
Yeah, we really, really appreciate your time. And I actually learned some things that I've known you for a long time, and I actually learned a few new things today. So thank you for that. Oh my God, that was amazing. What an incredible first guest speaker.
Oh my gosh, I just love her. I love working with her.
Yeah.
And she's going to be back. We're going to have her back.
For sure. Yeah.
She's great.
It was so much good information. And I loved that I actually learned new things from her that in working 6 years together that I didn't know. She just has a way of, I think, presenting the material. She's obviously very passionate about, gerontology and working with people who have dementia. And it's such valuable, just amazing information. That was such an exciting episode to do.
Well, and what I think comes through too is that she really loves what she does. And so, that can hopefully be inspiring to others out there.
Yeah. And I think, this episode really was a springboard for many episodes to come on supporting all of you out there in caring for loved ones. And we really would love your input. So let us know what you thought about the episode. Like us, rate us, review us, and just make comments. Let us know what you'd like to see in the future.
Or questions for Ailie.
Questions for Ailie or for us. And let us know how we can continue to provide great content for you and how we can support you, because we are here for you.
Yeah. And remember, this is just the beginning of the conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. So good.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Except I
Okay,
didn't have the
now
microphone
I
in
can
the
stop
right
the
spot.
recording. I remembered this time not to just jump up.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Your Silver Lining. We hope today's discussion was insightful and empowering. Aging isn't just about getting older, it's about embracing the journey and making the most of every stage of life. Through it all, we've got you. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, and share it with anyone who might benefit. Your support helps us reach more people. Have a topic you'd love us to cover? Send us a message. Let's continue the conversation. Connect with us on social media or visit our website at yoursilverliningpodcast.com. Join us next time as we keep supporting you and caring for your loved ones. Until then, stay positive, be well, and remember, we are your silver lining.